Hello, beautiful souls. This is Atul Krishnadas, one more time with you in one more episode of Ashram Talks. So, we've been for a while in chapter number 4 of the Gita talking about transcendental knowledge. And today we will have a very interesting discussion because in our day to day life and the society that we live in, many times we have expectations, and those expectations are to accomplish more, be more, get more, ever time growing. And many times is because of a materialistic expectation about success. However, at the same time, for many of us, we have an idea sometimes that spiritual life requires something completely different, diametrically different, to not engage, to withdraw, to be in silence, to contemplate. And when we're living on our days, engaging in society, sometimes we have these contradictory, thoughts pulling us apart, and we don't know what should we do in many cases. And today we will remember how we started this journey at the beginning on the Gita with Arjun, where he is about to start a battle, when he has a duty, a sacred duty. However, he doesn't want to do it. He feels like it will be easier just to withdraw, to not act. And is then when he receive this sacred knowledge from Krishna. And in that point where he will feel like the consequences of acting will be so big, uh, not only for him, but also for people that he cares about. And in that moment, Krishna, God is telling him directly, stand and fight, engage. And we will retrieve a little bit of that energy today. And in order to do so, we have the wonderful Haripriya with us. Hello, Haripriya.
Thanks for having me.
Of
So
course, it's wonderful having you here.
yes, so yeah, I loved what you said. Yeah, a lot of times we're like, do more, be more, and it's so much pressure. And Arjuna's, and then the spiritual idea is like, go meditate. So that's what he's looking at. Like, do I do this battle or do I go meditate in the forest? And that's exactly his dilemma. And so let's see what Krishna says to him. So
Of course.
I'll just say a prayer to my guru. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Jai Gurudevs. So, yes, that's the world we live in. And actually, what Krishna says in chapter 4, this is where we are, text 42. Therefore, the doubts, right? It's Arjuna's doubts. What do I do? What do I do in this situation? Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. And that's this entire chapter, transcendental knowledge. So he teaches the knowledge and then he says, use this knowledge to slash those doubts. Arjuna, so he's speaking to Arjuna, he says, armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. I'm going to read a little bit of the purport before we dive in. The yoga system instructed in this chapter, because he says armed with yoga. So it's like, what yoga are you talking about? He's not talking about the yoga of going to the forest and meditating and, just meditating on God and withdrawing from the world, because he's not telling him to withdraw. He's telling him to stand and fight. So what yoga is he talking about? So we all know that yoga does mean union with the Lord, from the same, it comes from the same root of like yoke, to join. So yoga is to join us with our source, to join us with the Supreme Lord. So this yoga that he's talking about, he says the yoga system instructed in this chapter is called Sanatana Dharma, Well, Sanatana Yoga. We sometimes hear Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Yoga means what's true for our soul, what's true for who we actually are, or eternal activities performed by the living entity. This yoga has two divisions of sacrificial action. One is called sacrifices of one's material possessions. The other is called knowledge of the self, which is pure spiritual activity. So gaining knowledge of who you are is pure spiritual activity. I just love that. I wanted to accentuate it. While I was studying for this course and prepping, I was reading, and I was actually reading for hours and hours, and I was thinking, this is pure spiritual activity, because it's the study of who we really are. I'm going to skip a little bit in the purport and touch another point. Prabhupada says, when we come to spiritual activities, we find that these are also divided in two, namely understanding of one's own self, or one's conditional, or sorry, I said conditional, it's constitutional. So understanding of one's own self, one's constitutional position, and the truth regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So understanding Krishna and understanding ourselves. And I'll just read a little bit more. One who follows the path of the Gita as it is can very easily understand these two important divisions of spiritual knowledge. For him, there is no difficulty in obtaining perfect knowledge of the self as part and parcel of the Lord. Ignorance can be removed, because he says ignorance, right? In the text, Krishna is saying this is coming from ignorance, your doubt, your anxiety, your fear, like, do I do this? Do I do that? Not knowing what to do. It's coming from a layer over his eyes. So like when we're in the dark, we can't see. So that's synonymous with ignorance. Like there's something we're missing. Ignorance means to ignore parts of reality. Like we don't see it. The lights are out. So that we're in ignorance, meaning we don't know something. Something's missing. So to turn the light on, to step into knowledge, he's saying here, to step into knowledge and shed this ignorance. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport a little bit further down, he says ignorance can be removed by gradual acceptance of the principles of Krishna consciousness. So, and then he speaks about different ways, different sacrifices. And he says within all these sacrifices, and one sacrifice is studying the Vedas, but he says within all these sacrifices, the important factor is self-realization. That's the factor, that's the goal. So whether someone's working in householder life or working in the forest, self-realization is the goal, knowing who you are. So I'll stop there for reading the purport. So here he is. Here is Arjuna in this very challenging situation. And as Atul mentioned earlier, sometimes we find ourselves wondering, like, what's a spiritual life look like? Does it mean I quit my job and join the temple? It might mean that for some people. It depends on our nature. Because obviously earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about what good does suppression do? What good does it do to deny our own nature? Live in your nature. And be there and use where you are to serve, right? So here, Arjuna's a warrior. He is a military general. That's his nature. That's his position. That's his work currently. So Krishna doesn't say, okay, Arjuna, get up. He identifies what's happening internally for him. He doesn't just say, go fight. No, he gives him knowledge, transcendental knowledge, which is what this whole chapter has been about. And I recommend, if it interests you, to start at the beginning of this chapter and go to the end and read just all the texts, just like as a big overarch. Because sometimes we study just one and we go deep, which is beautiful and powerful. But to really get an overarching view, it can be very important to take one chapter and read it from beginning to end and try to digest it and assimilate it. So Krishna is telling him to cut the doubts with knowledge. And Krishna doesn't give like some motivational hype. He's not like, go out there and fight. No, he gives truth, like deep truth, which is more powerful than any kind of motivation. Because he says, understand who you are. Understand who God is, who Krishna is. Then understand the relationship between the two of you. And then, knowing that, then act. And that's more empowering. Because if we know who we are, we really know that we are intrinsically linked. We're like this. We're not separate from Krishna. And later there's a purport about, well, I'll get there, but where it's only the layers of ignorance or the layers of illusion that make us feel separate. So we're actually like threads on a woven cloth that God and I, we're united, and you and God are united. So when you know that and you live from that space, your actions will completely be transformed, and you'll have the courage and the power to face difficult work. This is very difficult work. This is an example of intensely challenging work. And Arjuna starts to think about the results. And Krishna says, no, let that ignorance go. Know who you are. Use knowledge. Here's this knowledge of who you are. You're intrinsically linked with me. That means Krishna's happiness and Arjuna's happiness they're united. They're synonymous. So when we actually know that, then our actions become informed by that. And as we work to please God, to serve God, we get satisfied. And so that's way more empowering than you just go do it. Go do it. You can do it. You can do this. It's like, oh, you have some ignorance. Oh, you have some fear, right? And we'll talk about fear and how it comes in our world is often anxiety, right? Everybody loves saying like, oh, I'm in anxiety, I'm doing this and this. But it's fear. Anxiety means we're scared something's not going to work out. We're scared about the results of our actions. We're scared about whether we can accomplish what we have set out for us or what we want to accomplish, right? So he's saying, okay, see that, and gain knowledge of your position, and that's empowering. So sometimes what we need is to be clearer. We don't need like a pep talk. We need to be clear. And from being clear, action comes. So I took a few notes. So Krishna also says in chapter 15, verse 7, Krishna describes the living entity as an eternal fragmental part, like an eternal part. That means never can you be separated. So, and then there's also another part that I wanted to read to you. It's chapter 4, it's just a few verses back, text 35. And this says, when you have thus learned the truth, and this is, he addresses the verse before, I'll just give you context. So the verse before is beautiful, it's famous. It says, this is text 34, chapter 4. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. And then this chapter that I want to address, he says, and when you have thus learned the truth, you will know that all living beings are but part of me. To me, that gave me such relief. Like, oh, we're part of him. Like, take a moment, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and say in your mind, I'm part of God. How does that feel? So I'm a visual person, so I imagine like, oh, he's holding me. Or I can lay back, I can relax back, I can lean on him. I'm part of him. I'm not alone. I'm not operating alone. So I'll continue this text. I love this text. So when you've learned this knowledge, when you've learned the truth, you'll know that all living beings are but part of me and that they are in me. What does that mean? They're in me and are mine. So that might resonate differently for different people. For me, it was like, oh, he's got my back. I'm his. So he's got my back and I'm in him, so I'm safe. It's like, so just let's take a moment, humor me if you don't mind, just see what that feels like. I'm safe. Krishna's got my back. I'm part of him. I'm in him. I'm his. And he's the most powerful person in the universe, and he's got me. And when something is yours, when something's ours, we take care of it. So when something is God's, he takes care of it. So he's taking care of us. We don't always feel it. And our consciousness can shift to starting to notice it more and more. And as we notice it, it will also grow. It's almost like, gratitude for what is brings more of that thing. So as we notice, maybe just start to open our eyes today and think, where does Krishna have my back? Where's Krishna serving me in this situation? Just to know, okay, I'm not alone. Because that's way more empowering than just go do what you need to do. It's like, I'm supported and I know who I am. I'm a servant of God. I'm going to work for God. I'm going to work in a way that pleases God. And that's going to satisfy me because I'm part of him. And we're linked. Our enjoyment, our happiness, our satisfaction is linked. So as I offer things to give pleasure and happiness to Krishna, I'm going to feel that happiness. So I'm going to read the one sentence of the purport. The results of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul, which this whole Bhagavad Gita is Srila Prabhupada's purports. He is a self-realized soul. So as we spend time with him, we're gaining that association. We're gaining knowledge from a self-realized soul. So it says, the results of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul, or one who knows things as they are, is learning that all living beings are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. The sense of separated existence from Krishna is called Maya. Now, Maya means ma, not. Ya, this. Maya, illusion. We know that word is illusion. It means not this. Not this. So we are not separate. And that is where so much struggle comes from, right? So Arjuna was thinking he was separate. He was like, what do I do? If I do this, this will happen. If I do that, that'll happen. That'll be painful. Oh my God, what do I do? So this corrects a misunderstanding also about what surrender means. So when Krishna asks Arjuna to surrender, sometimes we think, oh, surrender and serve God. That means like I shouldn't desire what I want, and what I want doesn't matter. But actually it's the opposite, see? So what matters is offering God, what you offer to God increases his joy, and you're a part of him. So as you serve him, you become satisfied. And because you're within him, you're a part of him, then you're both satisfied. So it isn't that you don't matter. So the word surrender, sometimes people go like, oh my God, I don't want to surrender. I have my desires. I want to do what I want to do, right? But you're not your desires. We're not our desires. That is Maya. That is not that. Not this. Maya means not this. So we have all these desires, all these ideas. Now, if we stop and look at that and we identify what are these desires coming from? If the desire is like, I'm separate from God, I want to enjoy, that's the Maya. If we look at these desires and we differentiate, what part of these desires shows my nature? Like, what can I learn about my nature in this lifetime? What body am I in? What is my nature? And then that nature, you work with it, right? So when we try to get a higher taste by serving God and letting go of material desires, that doesn't come from us denying our nature, right? And I think that happens sometimes. So I want to really touch on this differentiation, because very clearly Krishna is saying, Arjuna, this is your nature. You're a warrior. Go and do your dharma. Go and do your duty. This is your service. Do it and think of me, right? Later he says that, and I'll quote that most likely if we get to it. And so we should know our desires, and we don't just throw them out, and we don't just follow them blindly. Neither. Look at them. Really look at them. Understand ourselves. Use it as knowledge. Like, oh, my inclination is this, this, and this. Okay. But I'm using knowledge from the Bhagavad Gita to know who I am. And I'm not going to accidentally identify with all the things that I'm not. Right? I'm no longer going to identify that I'm just some separate being. I'm just this personality that has all these goals. No, I'm ready to identify that I'm a servant of God, a servant that's loved, I'm a piece of God, I'm a part of God, and I'm supported, I'm sheltered, and my happiness is intrinsically woven into Krishna's happiness. That to try to be happy alone is like, I've said this analogy before, it's like putting food on your body. Now you got to put the food in the mouth. And then it hits the belly, and then the body's satisfied. You don't satisfy a part by rubbing the food on it. You satisfy the arm by putting the food in the belly, and the arm has energy now. So in the same way, we don't satisfy ourselves by just trying to get what we want. And that is like the total complete lie of the society that is always like, oh, you're not happy because you need more. You need to do more. You need to achieve more. You need more followers. You need more money. And maybe we do need some things, and maybe we do have a trajectory, but we must identify with our true nature, which is intrinsically woven with somebody else who's amazing. And as we serve this amazing whole, we're a part, and that part is satisfied, and we gain that internally. It is joyfully performed. It's another verse from the Bhagavad Gita. It's one of my favorites, the king of all knowledge. It's another chapter. And this knowledge, we experience it within, and it's joyfully performed. So our deepest interest isn't separate from Krishna's interest. So it's intrinsically connected. And so serving God, acting to satisfy Krishna, that satisfies our deepest self, who we actually are, not just the mind, not just our personalities, not our ego. So if I'm part of Krishna, then connecting my life to Krishna isn't losing myself or even forgetting about myself or not prioritizing my goals or my desires. It's putting myself back in that proper relationship with the whole. And when I say whole, I mean like the full, the whole, the complete, the holy. So, and the holy, the holy. So holy and holy connection. We're prioritizing who we actually are as we prioritize God. So as we please Krishna and we experience satisfaction and connection, that also dispels our ignorance. That dispels what's not this, what is not true, what is not reality. And we step into that light. And that it's like click, the light's on. Oh. And it's gives us so much actual relief. So what is pleasing to Krishna? And Arjuna's thinking maybe to quit his job. Let's look at that. Like, okay, so now we know we want to please Krishna, and that's actually in our best interest. And Arjuna's like, well, to please you, I should just quit my job and, let go of all this military gore. This looks like not spiritual at all. And I'll just go do something that looks spiritual. I'll meditate. I'll go to the forest. No. Krishna says, slash these doubts that have arisen out of ignorance with the weapon of knowledge, armed with yoga, armed with the connection of who you are, who God is, and what our relationship is. Armed with that knowledge. Actually, let's see. The purport that I just read. So I just have a few notes. Yeah, actually, I read it ahead of time. So that purport that I just read about what that yoga is, it's connecting with who we really are and connecting with the knowledge of who God really is. And so he says, armed with that yoga, stand and fight. So how does this apply to our life? Sometimes we might think like, I need to quit my job. I might think that like, oh, it's better to be more spiritual. So this is really important. If spiritual life is the real purpose, right? We might say, what's the point of me being like, I'm a realtor? What's the point of me selling houses? Or what's the point? I mean, for the self-development seminars, it's easy to connect with God. It's very easy for me to go like, yeah, the self-development seminars that I teach, that is waking us up to who we really are, empowering us to a deep level, on a deep level. So that's easy. But the real estate business, for example, and some of you might have a work field that you're like, how do I connect this to God? So this is the question, right? So am I wasting my time doing all these like material things, showing houses and making videos and doing open houses and all of that, right? So Krishna is not telling Arjuna to quit his job. And his job looks so far from spiritual on the externals. So in Bhagavad Gita, this is another verse. I have a bunch of verses I really wanted to share today. 3.8. Oh, I might have actually written it out. Okay, I did write it. Perform your prescribed duty, for action is better than inaction. A person cannot even maintain the physical body without work. Okay, that's clear. We have to work. We're supposed to work. Don't be lazy. Don't pretend to be spiritual. Don't give up your work to be spiritual. If that's your dharma and you're a Brahmin and that's just your nature and you want to like read books all day long and teach, that's something else. But if your nature is in this world, engaging in this world, okay, we're not supposed to give that up. So then I've got another one, Bhagavad Gita 1846, and I did write this: by worshiping of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, man or woman can, in the performance of their own duty, attain perfection. So like that's a mental shift. You can attain perfection by your work. I can attain perfection by being a realtor. Is that real? Is that legitimate? So life doesn't have to look like spiritual, like some idea of spiritual. So we don't have to be somebody else. We don't have to have other talents or try to make ourselves something else. Like, do we want to increase our reading? Yes. Do we want to increase our meditation? Yes. Do we have to give up our normal nature and what we do? No. So we start where we are. And what do we transform? Our mind, our consciousness, our awareness, maybe the purpose of our action. So Krishna also says, offer whatever you do to me. Okay, so how do I offer being a realtor to him? You know, obviously it's easy to offer chanting Krishna's name to him, offer studying the Bhagavad Gita, I'm offering my mind to him. So, but he says, whatever you do, okay, so let's think about that. How does my activity connect to Krishna? Okay, that's my work. So for you, it might look a little differently, but for example, for me, it's like, okay, as a realtor, all of these people I'm serving are souls, they're children of God. So maybe I make some prasadam, some offered food, and I give it to them as an offering for their own spiritual well-being and nourishment. Maybe I hold space and am present with them and actually listen. Where so many times people have their agenda and they're not even hearing the person in front of them. That is spiritual activity. We're letting them really be and be seen. We're creating a sacred space, as Rupa Goswami speaks about, creating a sacred space where people feel safe to be authentic, and maybe they'll share something of their heart. And as I'm a realtor, I'm showing them homes, but emotions come up and down. It's a roller coaster. So holding them in that space with my grounded awareness that they're going to be all right, and God's got their back, and they're intrinsically connected to God. Just holding that awareness can completely transform my workday, their experience, and my experience. So I'll read one last quote that I have. Chapter 8, text 7, Krishna says, therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting with your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed in me. You will attain me without doubt. So he tells Arjuna many times, fix your mind on me, right? In chapter 3, text 3, he says, surrender all your work onto me and give up the results even. Give up the egoism, give up the lethargy and fight, he says. So Krishna's telling him to fight, do your duty, do your work, but fix your mind. Fix your mind. So we can do that. At the beginning of every day, or even if we choose the beginning of every hour, we can stop and say, I'm fixing my mind. I'm fixing my mind on who I really am, who I'm really serving. And I'm going to serve this world. I'm going to be a realtor and show these houses. And I'm going to serve this world with that consciousness that I'm actually serving Krishna. I'm serving Krishna and his parts and parcels. And I'm not alone. I'm fully supported because I'm part of him. And now this is where it really transforms. I'm not doing it for the result. And that's not what Krishna says right here in this chapter, but he speaks about it so much. It's so predominated that in the Bhagavad Gita. And I'll say, how exhausting is our day-to-day when we are attached to the results of our work. When, like, actually for me, the last few weeks, I've been learning a new system, something new. We're doing something new in our business. And I have been thinking about the result. Okay, I have to do this, and I have to succeed, really, because this has to make this amount of impact in our business. So we might be thinking like, oh, I have to make this amount of money, or I have to accomplish this goal, or we might, as parents, think like, oh, my child has to turn out like this, right? There's so many like have to pressures when we're attached to the result, when we're working for that result. So I need this relationship to work, or I need the project that I'm doing to be successful. So how exhausting is that? And so when I was studying for this exact class, I felt so grateful, because as I was just kind of gleaming through and getting the arch, but then getting the essence and trying to go deeper, I realized that I had gotten misaligned. I had, because it's new and it is exciting, but there's a lot to learn, and I'm so kind of entrenched in learning it, I had forgotten that service is my goal. And I had thought that that was the goal. And I noticed that I was in more anxiety. And that's what we talked about was, what is anxiety? It's fear. It's fear because I'm putting pressure on myself that I have to accomplish these things. And then that means I have fear that it's not going to work out. But so after I studied all of this, I was like invigorated to do the same things I was doing, the same work, the same, kind of having the same tenacity and getting into the work. But see, the trap is I have to control these results. If I'm doing it for the result, then that means I need to control them. I need to control the outcome, right? And then there's another trap, which is like, oh, actually, it's not about the result. The results aren't mine. So like, I won't do it. I don't even have to do any of this. See, but those are both, I don't want to call them Maya. Maybe that's strong, but they're traps, meaning we can go the wrong way. And Krishna warns us against both of them, actually. In the Bhagavad Gita, he warns us both about lethargy, about like doing nothing. And so like, oh, I'm detached, I'm spiritual. So like, I don't care. I don't care how many houses I sell. I don't care. Maybe I won't even do that open house. Doesn't matter anyway, right? So that is not spiritual action. Obviously, I'm trying to make it exaggerated to be obvious, but we can get caught in those nuances, right? Of like, should I even do it? I mean, so that's one thing. And then the other is I have to accomplish this because I need the results. So, and we might need money. Of course we need money. At the same time, when we realize that we're part of God, then as we work, as we offer service in the world, reciprocation comes. As we create value, I mean, I think even Tony Robbins says this, that as you create value, then you reciprocate, you make money, So obviously you have to use your intelligence. You can't just like create value with no connection to finances, so you're never making a living to pay your bills. Krishna says you have to work, you have to pay your bills, you have to maintain your body. So of course, use your intelligence in how to do that. But if we're doing it just for those results, we're going to be like hamsters on the wheel, and we're going to be exhausted. And it's not the work that exhausts us. It's the attachment to that result. It's the pressure that comes from the attachment to that result. So for me, in this last, few days that I've been preparing, I realized like I'm more free. Let's see what results come. And in that spirit, I bet my results will be far superior than to anything that would have come if I was focused like, oh, I've got to do this and I've got to make this happen, right? Because that's ignorance. That's ignorance of my position. That's ignorance of how I'm connected to something so much bigger than me, so much more powerful than me, so much more amazing than me. So in knowledge and in wanting to think, okay, today I'm doing my work and I'm doing it as an offering to Krishna. I'm going to do all the same work I was going to do, but I'm doing it as an offering. Now I've already succeeded. Like that's the Zen formula. I've already succeeded in the beginning. So my happiness isn't relied on the future moment. My happiness isn't like, oh, I'll be happy when I get this. I'll relax when this happens. Oh, I'll be okay after I accomplish this. Peace is living in the future. The peace lives now when I say like, okay, I did my best for God, and what happens, it's enough. So I'm not worried about the results. I'm focused on the offering. And in doing that, it frees us to actually be much more powerful. So I'm getting to the end. I'm just going to scan my notes to see if there's another thing I want to mention. So yeah, we can ask, did we sincerely try to please Krishna today? What did we offer Krishna today? Did we remember him? In Bhagavad Gita 15:7, it's not forget about yourself and make Krishna happy. It's I belong to Krishna. My welfare is connected to Krishna. So remembering that, and then jumping into our work, standing and fighting. What does it mean? What does that mean? Stand and fight. It doesn't mean, oh, I don't want things to be hard or challenging. No, stand and fight. Be bold. Fully commit. Fully commit. So Bhagavad Gita 2:47, I think this will be my last quote. It warns against attachments to inaction. So in this verse, Krishna is so clear. Don't go to inaction. So detachment, for example, like let's see, it says I'm using spiritual language to avoid something difficult. Okay, we can ask ourselves that question. Are we using spiritual language to avoid something that's difficult, but that's actually ours to do, to go through? And when we're there, we're going through that. We're in the arena, as some say. We're in the arena. Then we get to see ourselves fully. Anarthas might come up. We get to see ourselves. We get to live where we are, see where we're not yet trusting in God, see where we're scared still, see it all and offer it all. Like where we are is okay. And then we get to offer all of that to God. So that's the class. I appreciate your patience. I see that we went over time. I just had so much juicy, quotes to make it really like, this is the essence here. This is the essence of our lives. So what do we want to do with it? And I have a couple questions you might want to think about in your week. Each day we can ask something like, and maybe it's not asking, maybe it's stating, today I'm working for you, Krishna. Try that on. Try that on every day for a week. So today is Thursday. From today to next Thursday, I give you a homework. Every day in the morning, look in the mirror and say, today I'm doing my work for you, Krishna. And Krishna's right here. As you look in that mirror, you know Krishna's right here in your heart. I'm doing that work for you, Paramatma. I'm doing that work for you. Or if it's better, I'm doing that work for you, Krishna, for you. And see how that transforms your life. Just see, try it on. And then a couple questions that I had jotted down that you might want to contemplate. What would change if instead of asking, how do I make this turn out my way? I ask, how can I act here in a way that pleases God? Or how do I stay aware that this work is connected to Krishna? We can ask ourselves that question. It might take you a little time. It took me some time. Like, how is real estate connected to Krishna? So, and then another one is there anywhere in my life where I've called something detachment when I'm actually avoiding something that's difficult? So that's what I leave you with. I see Colleen's saying so many beautiful things in the chat. Thank you. Thank you for being here. It's an inspiration, always knowing I'm going to have some beautiful ears listening. Thank you for this service of diving into the Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you very much, Haripriya. I think you left a lot of food for thought for everybody who was tuning in. And I know we are a little bit over time. I do want to share also like a couple of ideas that I had while I was listening to you. I think it's important to remember that we need knowledge about who we are, because how we define ourselves is very powerful.
Yeah. Our identity.
And we
Yes.
act based on that.
It's
And
yes. It's like trending now, like change your identity. And I'm like, yeah, change it to what it really is. Know what
exactly.
it really is.
And I think that many times, like, this desire to do more, be more, accomplish more, is not coming from us, from within us, it's coming from expectations of other people,
Mm,
or wanting validation, for wanting to be seen as something,
mm,
so it's not something from within, but from outside.
yeah.
And that's not it. That's not who we are. That's Maya.
Mm,
So it's not acting and doing and being obsessive of getting more just because of it. The true essence, and I think we need to work on it too, is finding out who we are, who we truly are in our souls. We are immortal souls, but what my immortal souls do is not the same as what you do,
mm,
right? And I go back then, to the language that Krishna is using in this verse, because he's saying that ignorance should be slashed with the sword
yeah.
of knowledge. And he's using slashed.
Wrong word.
It's not gentle, you know? It's like we are in a battle against ignorance. It's
Illusion.
flooding you every single day.
Yeah, it is. We're
And
surrounded by it. I mean, we're surrounded
yeah,
by messages that affirm that what is not, actually.
exactly. And he's not using something like light, a candle of wisdom to banish ignorance. No, he's very active in the way he's doing it. But at the same time, I think he's using this word because Arjun is a warrior.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
part of me believe it's saying act in the way that you should act. So
Mm.
perhaps for me, it's not going to be a sword and it's not going to be slashing, but definitely it's going to be acting. But it should be based on who we are. And I believe that if we are a little bit lost of who we are, what we should be doing is going to Guru.
Mm.
I love that, a dear brother of mine once taught me what guru means, and it means going from dark to light. And we are in here in a battle against ignorance, against darkness. The best way to finding who you are is listening sometimes.
Mm.
Listening to guru, then look within, find who we are, embrace who we are, and then when we know for sure, and then when we know that it's coming from within, from our soul, from Krishna who resides in it, then we act on it
Mm.
boldly, without fear.
There you go. That should be like a little phrase on your mirror or on my mirror just every day. Boom. If I'm not sure who I am, I'm listening, right? Listening to Guru, listening to the lectures, listening to. So we're in a time period where you can listen to spirit souls who are pure souls from the internet all day long, whenever you want. I mean, it's really amazing that we have recorded sound. It's really amazing. We have Srila Prabhupada recorded, and so many acharyas and spiritual people recorded. So I love that you said listening, because a lot of times we think, oh, who are we? What do we, and you were like, oh yeah, if I don't know who I am, I should listen. Listen to the Bhagavad Gita. Listen, and that'll wake me up. It'll wake up my knowledge. And then yes, as you shared more, and then you can stand boldly and fight. When you have knowledge, you can stand boldly. Thank you. What a pleasure this class has been. Thank you all for being here. And maybe
Yes,
anyone who's watching this in the recorded form, leave a comment of like what stand and fight looks like for you in your life. What does it look like? What does standing and fighting look like for you? If you're inspired, share.
definitely. And I want to
I'd love to hear.
appreciate
I
and
would love to
thank.
hear from you, Atul. Like in the comment even later, after you meditate on it. You too, Colleen. You too, Sienna. Like, what does stand and fight mean? Like, I'll write it too. I'll stop and think, what does it mean for me? I mean, I said something about real estate, but stand and fight really for me means something related to the self-development seminars I teach. So I'll do my own homework, and I encourage us all. Write in the comment, what does stand and fight look like for you? So thank you all.
Of course, and I think that's wonderful to to engage and be part of this community. I thank everybody who was also live in here and everybody who will take the time, if they were not able to make it at this time, to hear this, to analyze this, to really go deep. And I invite anybody who wants, who can, to join us live in our next session of Ashram Talks. Thanks, all beautiful souls, for joining us, for listening, for tuning in, and then see you the next time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.